Have you ever stopped to think about what happens when the classic world of accounting audit collides with something as modern as data science? You might have this image of auditors, maybe surrounded by ledgers ticking boxes. But what if I told you the future of finance is actually being written right now? And it's this blend, this fusion of traditional checks and balances with really powerful analytical tools. Tools that let you see things you just couldn't before. So today, we're doing a deep dive into a really innovative college class that's kind of leading the way here. We want to give you a clear primer, sort of a heads up on what a class like this actually involves. A way to quickly grasp this big shift that's happening. We'll explore why this integrated approach, mixing audit and data science, isn't just like a nice to have. It's becoming absolutely essential if you want to be properly informed in finance today. Especially, I think, if you're maybe considering auditing as a career path. So let's unpack this a bit.
When you hear accounting audit, your mind probably jumps to something pretty traditional. Yeah. Rules, compliance, lots of looking back at what happened. But honestly, there's this whole new frontier opening up. It takes that solid foundation and marries it with the power of data science using the structure of a pretty comprehensive class designed for, well, the auditor of tomorrow.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating, I think, is how this class is designed. It's very carefully put together to get you ready for how the audit profession is changing. It's moving way beyond just ticking compliance boxes. It's really about using data science, using analytics to make every part of an audit engagement better, sharper, more insightful. Think about moving from just checking numbers after the fact to actually proactively spotting risks before they become big problems. So sure, you'll cover the core stuff like risk assessment, internal controls. That's fundamental. But, and this is key, you also get practical hands-on skills, how to actually collect data, clean it up, which is often a huge job, analyze it, visualize it, and crucially, understanding the ethics around using all this data in audits. The description for a class like this makes it clear. You're leveraging your accounting knowledge alongside statistical methods, machine learning techniques. It sets you up for a future where data fluency is just expected.
So it's really about getting your hands dirty with the data itself, not just talking about it in theory.
Yeah.
What are some of the actual skills you'd walk away with?
Precisely. Getting your hands dirty is a good way to put it. The objectives are very clear on this. You should be able to apply data science methods. You know, the whole process from grabbing the data, cleaning it, prepping it directly to real audit situations. And cleaning isn't trivial. Like I said, sometimes that's the bulk of the work, honestly. Making sure the data is trustworthy. You'll use statistics, both descriptive like means and standard deviations, and inferential like probability and hypothesis testing. That's vital for audit sampling, making it more accurate, more efficient. And here's where it gets really interesting. You'll use techniques like regression, time series analysis, machine learning models. These are for doing much more sophisticated analytical procedures, better risk assessment, and even finding potential fraud proactively. It really empowers you to dig deeper.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. This class doesn't just tack data science on at the end, right? It seems to start with the basics, the bedrock traditional accounting. You know, the accounting equation, journal entries, financial statements. But it sounds like it weaves the data science in almost from the very beginning. How does that actually work in the early stages?
That's a great point. The integration starts pretty much immediately. Week one, you're looking at accounting's role, reviewing the accounting cycle, the usual foundations. But right alongside that, you're asking, okay, what is data science? How do people actually do it? Often using practical guides, maybe like the art and science of data analytics. You even start talking about the tools, the technology, maybe an introduction to Python, which is a really key language in this space.
Python, right. Okay.
Then, say week two, you're exploring the income statement, the balance sheet. But at the same time, you're learning about data collection methods relevant to audits. How do you handle really large data sets, for example? And by week three, you're hitting a critical step. Data cleaning and pre-processing. This is huge. You have to ensure data quality before you can analyze anything meaningfully. Think of it like prepping ingredients before cooking. Bad data in, bad analysis out. Simple as that.
So you're really building that solid accounting knowledge, but at the exact same time, you're laying the groundwork for the data analytics skills. It's not like learn accounting, then learn data. It's happening together.
Yeah.
That feels like it would make the application much more natural later on.
You got it. It's absolutely a parallel track. It ensures you're always viewing those traditional accounting concepts through this modern data lens. It prepares you for what audits actually look like now increasingly. Environments rich with data where you need to understand its whole life cycle, its quality, and how to unlock its potential. It's like becoming fluent in two essential languages simultaneously.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Talk about something really critical in any audit. Internal controls. And the big one, catching fraud. Traditionally, finding fraud can be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Very manual, very time-consuming. How does data science change that game? Does it make it more proactive?
That's exactly the question, isn't it? How do auditors get ahead of the curve, move beyond just manual checks to proactively sniff out risks, maybe even sophisticated fraud schemes that are designed to be hidden? So in a typical week, maybe week 4, the class tackles internal controls, fraud types, things like Sarbanes-Oxley requirements, that's the foundation. But then comes the deep dive, data-driven fraud analysis. This is where it gets powerful. You start learning preliminary concepts, maybe using machine learning for classification, basically teaching a computer to sift through massive amounts of transactions and flag the ones that look suspicious based on patterns. Or using time series analysis to spot weird deviations from normal patterns over time. Things a human might easily miss just scanning reports.
Wow, using machine learning to flag suspicious transactions, that sounds like a massive leap forward.
It really is. Imagine an algorithm checking millions of entries, potentially in near real time, identifying patterns linked to known fraud types or just statistical anomalies. It connects directly to using these advanced techniques for better, faster decision making.
Okay, so that's fraud detection supercharged. Then you mentioned the statistics, the mathematical engine behind a lot of this data science, right? This is often where students might feel a bit intimidated, but it sounds absolutely essential for being a proper data-driven auditor. How does a class like this make statistics accessible but also rigorous?
Yeah, statistics are absolutely fundamental. Weeks 5 and 6 in this kind of structure are often dedicated to building that analytical muscle. It's the science in data science, really. You'd cover probability theory, understanding likelihoods. You'd get into different probability distributions like the normal distribution or binomial, basically understanding how data tends to behave. Then you master descriptive statistics, measures of center mean, median, mode, measures of spread variance, standard deviation. These just help you describe and summarize the data you have in front of you.
Like getting a clear snapshot of the data.
Exactly, painting that picture. Then you move to inferential statistics. This is where you use sample data to make educated guesses or inferences about the entire population of data. Super important for auditors who can't possibly check everything. You learn about things like the central limit theorem, which is a kind of cornerstone idea. It basically says that if you take enough samples, the average of those samples will usually be normally distributed, even if the original data isn't. That's what makes sampling reliable.
Right, that underpins the whole idea of sampling.
It does. And you apply hypothesis testing. That's the formal process for testing a claim about data. Like, is the reported average value of inventory actually correct? You test it statistically. And you have to understand the risks. Type I errors, false alarms, flagging something okay as bad, and type 2 errors, missing something that is bad. A false negative, arguably the more dangerous one in an audit. These concepts usually draw from solid statistics textbooks, ensuring you get the proper grounding.
Okay, so now we've got the accounting base, we've got the data science tools like machine learning, and we've got this solid statistical backbone. How do you bring it all together? How do you apply this amazing toolkit to auditing specific parts of the financial statements? This must be where it really clicks for students.
This is exactly where it clicks, moving from theory to, okay, how do I use this on the job? Weeks 7 through 11 typically are focused on applying these tools to specific accounts and cycles. So week 7, maybe you're auditing revenue and accounts receivable. Instead of just confirmations, you might use regression analysis. Can we predict what the revenue should be based on past trends or other factors? If the actual number is way off, that's a red flag.
So you're building a model of expectation.
Precisely. Or you could use hypothesis testing to compare, say, how quickly this company collects cash from customers versus industry averages. Is there a significant difference? Why?
So it's not just one tool fits all. You're picking the right data technique for the specific audit area, like having a specialized key for each financial log.
That's a great analogy. You're strategically applying the right tool. When you look at inventory and cost of goods sold, maybe in week 8, you'd learn time series analysis. Forecasting. Imagine predicting expected inventory levels based on historical sales patterns. Then you compare that forecast to the actual count. Big discrepancies could signal obsolescence, theft, or errors, much more powerful than just comparing year over year. Then for long-term assets and liabilities, maybe week 9. Again, regression could predict depreciation expense. Or you might use something like the chi-square test that's for categorical data to check if assets are classified correctly. Are these really property, plant, and equipment, or should they be something else? Week 10 might introduce ANOVA analysis of variance. That's a statistical test for comparing the means of 3 or more groups. For example, our average payroll costs significantly different across various departments. ANOVA helps you figure that out rigorously. And then week 11 often pulls it all together, reinforcing regression for prediction, maybe introducing more machine learning for anomaly detection across all the financial statements, looking for weird patterns that span multiple accounts, giving you that holistic, data-driven picture of financial health.
Analyzing all this data is one thing, a huge step forward, but then you have to communicate it, right? Make it understandable, make it actionable, especially for people who aren't data scientists. That seems like a whole different skill. How does this kind of class teach that?
That's absolutely critical. Insights are useless if you can't communicate them effectively. So there's usually a dedicated focus on this, maybe around week 12, on data visualization for audit findings. And it's not just about making pretty charts, it's about learning to tell a clear story with the data. How do you visually represent complex financial information so that unusual trends, risks, or key issues just jump out?
Making the complex simple, visually.
Exactly. You learn techniques for visualizing different kinds of data, single variables, data over time, relationships between multiple variables, often using tools like Python libraries again, which are industry standard. The goal is to turn complex analysis into clear, compelling visual narratives that managers or audit committees can grasp quickly and act upon.
And beyond just making it clear, there's the whole ethical dimension. Ethics is foundational in accounting, obviously. But with data science, you're dealing with vast amounts of potentially sensitive information, plus the risk of bias creeping into your algorithms. How is that addressed?
Yeah, this is hugely important, and it raises that key question. How do we use these powerful tools responsibly in a profession built entirely on trust? So, week 13, for instance, would likely dedicate significant time to ethics throughout the data science cycle. It's not an afterthought. It means looking at ethical considerations at every single stage. Data collection. Are we respecting privacy? Do we have the right to use this data? Data analysis. Are our models fair? Are we introducing or amplifying biases unintentionally?
Bias in algorithms, right? That's a big concern.
A very big concern. And then visualization and reporting. Are we presenting findings accurately and transparently? Not misleading people, even accidentally. Client confidentiality, data security, avoiding bias. These are central themes, building on the core accounting ethics you learn from day one. It's about cultivating that mindset of being a responsible data steward.
Okay, so after this whole journey, building the accounting base, adding the stats and data science tools, applying them to specific areas, learning communication and ethics, what does the wrap-up look like, and what does this all mean for the future of audit?
Well, the final week, say week 14, is usually about synthesis, pulling everything together, reviewing how data science techniques really enhance every single phase of the audit, from initial planning right through to the final report, connecting all those dots. And importantly, it also looks ahead. It often touches on emerging trends, things like deep learning, the basics of AI, natural language processing, analyzing text data like contracts or emails. These aren't maybe core skills yet, but they hint at where the profession is going next. How might AI analyze unstructured data for audit evidence?
So looking over the horizon a bit.
Exactly. This final part really cements the transformative power of integrating these skills. It shows you how this preparation sets you up not just for today's audits, but for the next generation of challenges. You leave not just with skills, but with a vision for the future of the profession.
Wow. That really is an incredible journey. It sounds like a truly modern way to approach accounting audit. This deep dive makes it so clear that if you're going into this field, you're not just learning the what anymore, the financial statements themselves. You're learning the how and the why of using data to tackle real audit problems. It really feels like comprehensive preparation for a career that's going to be incredibly dynamic. You're ready for complexity.
Indeed. I think this kind of structure really lays out how that foundational accounting knowledge, when you combine it with powerful statistical tools, machine learning, it prepares you to do so much more. You learn to synthesize information from diverse sources, to critically question assumptions, not just accept things at face value, to find patterns hidden in the noise, and then present those insights in a way that actually matters. At the end of the day, it's about becoming a truly critical, insightful thinker in a world that's just drowning in data.
So, as you, our listener, think about this learning path. Maybe you're considering an audit career. Maybe you're just fascinated by this intersection of finance and tech. Here's something provocative to leave you with.
How might the relentless march of AI, deep learning, and other advanced techniques not just help auditors, but fundamentally reshape their entire role? Could it enable them to detect the next generation of complex financial anomalies, maybe even before they happen, making the auditor more proactive, more insightful, and ultimately more indispensable than ever before?